Beast, que é o maior youtuber do mundo, bateu hoje. Hoje ele fez uma live agora de manhã, tinham 500 mil de pessoas assistindo, batendo 500 milhão de inscritos. O MrBeast é uma máquina de likes aí, de compartilhamentos e de entretenimento, né? Ele faz uns programas meio reality show. Tá envolvido em algumas controvérsias, né? Tem acusações de abuso dentro da empresa dele. Mas é um fenômeno, né? Ele é o cara, ele é o adulto em relação ao Felipe Neto, né? O que o Felipe Neto muito do que o Felipe Neto faz na internet é influenciado pelo MrBeast, né? Vamos ver aqui.
Let's switch back to this. This is what it's like. I feel like Speed. I'm a streamer now. Okay. So, guys, we're gonna watch some of these old videos back in the day. So, like, here's my 1,000 subscriber special. This is my 2,000 subscriber special, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000. We have I have a video I made back in the day when my mom found my YouTube channel. I have
Ele já fez vídeo com a mãe dele.
There's so many good videos here. It's gonna be awesome. Hey, I'm reading chat. Should we jump right into it? Can you have me water? Chat, should we jump right into this bad boy? Okay. It's gonna be freaking awesome.
Isso aqui acho que eu vou fazer um corte.
Let me refresh this real quick. I'm just and how's the stream looking for all of you guys? Oh, lovely. My account doesn't have YouTube Red. 1 second. I'm getting an ad. Here, Walt, can you hand me a water? There's just one right there. All right. Cool. All right, let's do this. It's all good. I don't care. Just hand me one. I can open it.
Ele abriu a live e ficou esperando o número bater, né?
All right, let's jump into it. I'm good. Okay, so the first video I wanted to show you guys is you can just chill over there too. All right, the first video I wanted to show you guys was this one called Millions of Views. So check this out.
What's up, guys?
So this is a video for context. We're going to be taking a trip down memory lane while we wait for this counter to hit 500 million. So this video right here, man, I think I have like a 10-second delay. I hate a delay. I want to be able to read the chat in real time. In the future, let's not do such long delays. This video right here. Wait, let me make sure the audio and stuff's good too. How's okay? It's gonna be freaking awesome. Is the stream lagging? Well, or is it good?
No, we're good.
Okay.
No.
Cool. This video right here. Wait, let me make sure the audio. All right, it's lagging for me, but if it's as long as it's good for the viewers. All right, I hate looking down so much. I want to put the chat up here somehow, so I can like be looking up. There we go. Guys, if you type in chat, you'll see yourself.
Não, vocês assistindo aí comigo.
Okay. So this video we're about to watch is 10 years old. So I made this video back when I was what is that? 17? Well, let's see what month it was. I made this video, yeah, when I was like 16 years old. What is this? Oh, this is my old Twitter. Oh no, I lost the sub count.
Hoje ele tem 26, gente. Ele é muito novo.
Let's see. Here, well, can you just elevate this laptop so it sits up higher or something? I just hate like staring down the whole time because it looks like I'm not looking at the camera. Then I can't read chat. Or just like put a phone with the chat right beside the camera if you don't mind, please. Okay, so this video, well, let's watch it. Watch this. This is little baby me.
Guys, I recently hit 2 million views, and I was kind of thinking about that, like how there are channels out there that literally have 2 million subscribers, and I'm over here happy that I have 2 million views. I don't know. It's weird to think about, like, you know, I can finally say I have millions of views, you know.
Is that crazy? Back when I was a teenager, I made a video about hitting 2 million views. The title of this video is called, it's right here, Millions of Views. Is that freaking insane? Can you lower the delay so I can actually read chat?
They're working on it right now.
Okay. I want to see what they say. I hate waiting 10 seconds. Yeah, this is brutal. All right. In 5 more seconds, I'll get to see what chat has to say about it. What? You can't just switch it on the back end?
I'm trying.
Okay. Yeah, it's like brutal because if I can't talk to chat, well, who am I talking to? I'm just talking to myself. Okay. We're closing in on 500 million for those of you tuning in. Wow, yeah, this delay is horrendous. You just go on OBS and just swap it.
Deixa eu adiantar aqui que ele vai ficar reclamando de coisa técnica.
Present videos right now. So the next one, well, actually, before we watch the video when my mom found my YouTube channel like a decade ago, hey, can you guys not stand behind the camera? It's distracting as hell. I want to watch this one right here. So, okay. If this here, honestly, yeah, thank you. Okay, so back in the day, I made this YouTube video right here titled, if this video gets 1 million views. By the way, for everyone tuning in, we're going to be live until we hit 500 million subscribers. So if you could do me a favor and hit the subscribe button, that would be sick.
Se inscreve aqui no Drops de Jogos também,
So
viu,
we
gente?
could
Vamos
actually
aumentar
hit
esses
it
inscritos.
here.
Eu tenho uma meta de
just
10
gonna-
mil, gente. Vamos
Can
lá.
you just literally put your phone right here with the chat so I can... Okay. Because it looks like when I look down, it looks like I'm not even looking like at the camera. So we're gonna hit 500 million live together. It's gonna be freaking awesome. And yeah, so I'm right now, sorry for talking about it so much, but I'm working on reducing delay on chat so I could actually like talk to you guys.
Deixa eu adiantar esse negócio do delay, tá chato pra caralho.
But wait, that is man, good old days. That is some Mr. Beast lore. As we're approaching 500 million, there once was a time I had 500 subscribers and the channel name was Mr. Beast 6000.
Quando ele tinha 500 inscritos. O canal
Well,
dele
were
era
you able
esse.
to lower the delay?
They're working on the back end on YouTube.
Is it like mandatory or did we set it?
Mandatory.
YouTube has a mandatory delay? How does speed talk to chat? Chat in hand. I got chat in hand. This right here is freaking crazy because all right, guys, I know some of you might be a little younger. How many of you remember annotations on YouTube where you could like, you know, right now you guys, there's end screens you can put at the end of videos, but back in the day you used to be able to put an annotation anywhere on the screen during a video. So you could have like at any point you could just tap on a part of a YouTube video and it pull up like a URL or pull up a different video. Surely, like type 5 in chat if you remember annotations, type any other number if it was before your time, because this was really cool back in the day before they got rid of it. Also it says follow my Twitter. This is 10 years ago. Man, I've been chronically on Twitter for over a decade.
Yeah.
Wow, it's pretty ridiculous. I need to get a life. I'm seeing a lot of non-5s. Okay. All right, now I'm seeing a lot of 5s. Okay, so you guys do remember it. So back in the day with annotations, I used to put one, I had these 2 unlisted videos. One was you won, one was you draw, or 3 unlisted videos. You won, you drew, you lost. And so at the end of every video, I would play rock, paper, scissors with the audience, and they'd click on one of these 3 things, and then whatever video pulled up was like, you know, your result. That was so cool, bro. That was creative as heck.
Ele jogava pedra, papel e tesoura com a audiência, com anotações. É engraçado essa coisa, né? Tem muita gente grande que cresce graças à audiência, né? É essa interatividade que faz toda a diferença, né?
I'm so proud of that. When I was a small creator, I remember thinking like, yo, this is freaking awesome. And people used to watch the end of the videos just to play like rock, paper, scissors. It was like, that was so fun. Good times. I wish I could do something like this now. Like give you like a little mini game you could play at the end of the videos. But the problem is end screens don't allow you to do that. And obviously they phased out annotations. By the way, guys, before we jump to our next video, let's watch, we'll watch this one about this mini mic booth I made when I was a kid. Let me, where's the, so. There we go. Guys, we are closing in on 500 million subscribers. If you haven't already subscribed, we're 150,000 off. We're getting so freaking close. Oh, it's going to be freaking awesome.
Ele bateu mais ou menos aqui,
I'm
né?
Really? 54%? I would have thought it would be like 25%. Because Karim Manati, I've seen his analytics. His audience is 100%, like essentially India and Pakistan. That's how you grow. And so, you know, that's kind of my focus. I don't really, again, it's ironic because of the nature of the stream, but I don't really focus on numbers, especially not like I used to. I've been really obsessed with like trying to figure out how I could tell better stories in the videos and edit the videos better and you know, just entertain you guys. Creekcraft is watching my stream. Shout out to Creekcraft. Yo, everyone watching his stream, watching my stream, come on over and sub. Let's hit 500 million. Lining up over here. Wow, that's 100,000. So crazy.
Quando ele bateu 100
Bro, and
mil,
like when I hit that 100,000 subscribers, that was such a
ele fez
freaking
uma
big
live
deal.
igual.
What's up? Yeah, it took me, so my friend over here just said, it took me 2 years and 78 days to hit
Ele
1,000.
fez 1h30 pra
We're about to hit
fechar.
it. Wait, we're about to hit it. We're so close. Wait, 3,000 off. Wait,
3
we're
mil
about to hit it.
inscritos.
We're about to hit it. What? Whoa. There we go. 500 million subscribers. 500 million. Confetti. Woo. Confetti. Yes, thank you. Thank you, team. 500 million. Guys, this is freaking insane. Wow. So I want to just say something, because while I have your guys' attention, there's a big milestone. I want to say this. I want to say that I shouldn't be who I am right here. Like, I shouldn't have, 500 million subscribers. Like, statistically, I shouldn't. I didn't grow up with much. It's funny, the more famous I become, the more people are like, oh, he had a rich family or blah, blah. That's why he gave away money. Like, both my parents were in the military, and we ended up going bankrupt back in 2008 in the financial crisis, and like,
A família dele era falida em 2008 na
I
crise
couldn't afford equipment.
econômica.
I would have to save up money from my AdSense to buy a microphone or computer. Like, I really shouldn't be where I am today. Like, it doesn't make sense that I have 500 million subscribers. Like, it's not like I grew up in Hollywood or I grew up in New York. I grew up in a very small town with no money, no resources, but I was just relentless, and I got lucky. I found what I loved at a really young age. I found YouTube at the age of 11, and I
Descobriu o
gave it my
YouTube
all.
com
And
11
I
anos.
woke up every day and I asked myself, how can I make the best videos possible? Holy crap, we gained 64,000 subscribers. Thank you guys. And I woke up every day and I just want to take this moment to inspire some of you, because if you don't like the position you're in, hopefully this could give you the fire to try something out. I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot of work to get to this point. I mean, they say it takes 10,000 hours to master something. I think 10,000 hours is too little. I think it takes 100,000 hours to master something. And I'm like probably 60, 70,000 hours deep on making YouTube videos. You know what I mean? Like 10 hours every day for, 15 years. So I don't know. Hopefully this just inspires you guys, because I shouldn't be Mr. Beast. I shouldn't have 500 million subscribers. I just shouldn't. Like, statistically, I just shouldn't. And but I surrounded myself with a lot of like-minded people. I was relentless. I was all in. Obviously, of course, I got lucky at certain parts. I think, again, the luckiest thing that happened to me is I found what I loved at a young age. Like, a lot of people don't find their passion until they're in their 20s or 30s. I found it when I was 11, right? And now I'm 28, so I've been doing this for almost 17 years now. And so,
Tem 28 anos só, gente.
I've
10
been very
anos mais
blessed
do que eu.
to have discovered this at a young age. But yeah, like, go chase your dreams, and you can do it. And I'm grateful for every single one of you that is subscribed to the channel. All 500 million of you, I'm grateful for. And I want you guys to know that, I think I have confetti in my hair. I want you guys to know that even though I've been doing this for majority of my life, and the big
9 anos
number,
mais novo que eu, tô
like,
com
this is
37.
where a lot of people would
Fala,
get
rachador de
complacent
teclado, boa
and they would
tarde.
start getting lazy. But I'm more motivated than ever. I'm more driven than ever. I'm more determined than ever. And all I want, like literally all I want in life, is just to tell great stories. I want to become a better storyteller, and I just want to entertain you guys. I want to give you guys the best freaking YouTube videos possible. Like, I'm not taking my foot off the pedal. I'm not like gonna get lazy, even though we have big numbers. Like, I take this very seriously, and I want to use my platform to do good. And I want to inspire a lot of people to do good, and I want to continue helping people. I have a lot of huge projects we're working on in America, in West Africa, on our cacao farms, in India, all around the world, where we're helping a lot of people in need. And so yeah, my big drivers right now are I just want to help as many people as possible, inspire as many of you as possible to help people tell as great stories as possible, and yeah, and just keep giving it my all for you guys. So
Ele é o maior nome do YouTube, tá, gente? Muita gente não deve conhecer o MrBeast. Eu já conheço ele desde a época da Rádio Geek. Quem me contou primeiro sobre ele foi o Juliano Barbosa lá da Rádio Geek. A gente deu notícia na capa do site, né, a respeito dele. Maior youtuber do mundo, MrBeast ultrapassa 500 milhões de inscritos. É um gigante do entretenimento. Maior youtuber do mundo, MrBeast ultrapassa 500 milhões de inscritos, 500 milhões de inscritos. Beast tem um conteúdo voltado para entretenimento que mistura reality show, produtos de sua marca própria, recompensas em dinheiro para membros e testes de resistência. Ele está fazendo uma live com mais de 500 mil pessoas assistindo. Quando eu subi essa matéria, ele estava naquele momento fazendo a live. Mulher brasileira processa a empresa de MrBeast, maior youtuber do mundo, por suposto assédio. Informação do Kotaku, que eu reproduzi lá no Drops. Uma mulher que trabalhou na Beast Industries, empresa por trás do popular canal MrBeast no YouTube, entrou com processo contra a empresa alegando ter sofrido assédio, abuso verbal e ter sido demitida após retornar de uma licença maternidade. A empresa afirma ter ampla evidência e refuta inequivocadamente as alegações dela. Segundo o Los Angeles Times, em um processo judicial aberto em 22 de abril no Tribunal Distrital dos Estados Unidos para o Distrito Leste da Carolina do Norte, a ex-funcionária Lorraine Mavromatis, que é uma brasileira, aliás, alegou ter sido vítima de assédio sexual e posteriormente rebaixada após reclamar. Ela também afirma ter sido forçada a participar de uma teleconferência enquanto dava à luz e que esperavam que ela trabalhasse durante a sua licença maternidade. Essa queixa oportunista se baseia em deturpações deliberadas e declarações categoricamente falsas, e temos as provas para comprovar, disse Gaud Paes, porta-voz da Beast Industries ao Los Angeles Times. Há uma ampla evidência, incluindo mensagens no Slack e do WhatsApp, documentos da empresa e depoimentos de testemunhas que refutam inequivocadamente as alegações dela. Não vamos submeter a advogados oportunistas que buscam lucrar às nossas custas. Lorraine é brasileira, informa o Portal Terra e a revista People. E assim, tem que cobrir o MrBeast, tá, gente? É o Felipe Neto deles. Bem menos politizado, mas um fenômeno de comercial, né? E mais abusos trabalhistas do neoliberalismo americano. Tem vídeos e vídeos na internet, mas eu acho importante acompanhar e entender esse fenômeno e também tirar um pouco da viseira das pessoas que acham assim, Pedro, por que você fica reagindo aí a Monark, você fica tratando as besteiras? Gente, muita gente vê esses conteúdos de entretenimento, não à toa a gente tem associação de youtubers agora com o mercado de games, lá fora e aqui no Brasil. Aqui no Brasil a gente tem um sucesso mega consolidado do Cellbit, Jovem Nerd fez jogos. O Felipe Neto acho que não fez jogo, mas ele participou aí de muitas iniciativas envolvendo games e agora tá com um canal de games com quase 700 mil inscritos. Então influenciador é uma coisa, eu entendo os mais velhos que falam assim, esse negócio é uma besteirada tremenda, falando da Virgínia e tal, mas essa galera, eles influenciam muito o comportamento das pessoas, muito, muito, muito mesmo. E no momento em que a indústria de games está em crise. E eu tô muito feliz com uma coisa bacana, que o Jason Schreier, que é o melhor repórter investigativo lá da Bloomberg, que fez parte do Kotaku, tá com um canal próprio agora. Ele fez um vídeo sobre o fim da E3, né? Mas ele também fez agora um vídeo sobre por que os games levam mais de 6 anos, os grandes games levam mais de 6 anos para serem feitos. Então eu quero encerrar aqui a minha live hoje e esse corte, trazendo esses conteúdos gringos aí pra gente refletir um pouquinho. Isso é uma boa aí pra gente poder seguir. Vamos lá, queridos e queridas, bora! Opa.
Last week I did a... Hello! So, last week I did a video about why video games have gotten so expensive to make, and I did a little bit of napkin math to kind of calculate the burn rate that studios go through, which, if you remember, I mean, you can go check out the video, but just as a quick refresher, it's essentially labor costs, which is not just people's salaries, but also their benefits and other added expenses, such as overhead, costs of office rent, and I don't know, studio supplies, stuff like that, office supplies. But it's almost entirely labor costs. And that's how we're getting into this world where games are costing 200, 300, 400 million dollars to make. But something that I didn't do, I was playing around with the numbers a little bit and talking about how games, the more time you take in a game, the more expensive it is. But something I didn't do is explain how we've gotten to the point where games are now taking 4, 5, 6, 7 plus.
Antes de mostrar o vídeo dele até o final, comprem o livro do Jason, Sangue, Suor e Pixels. Eu quero muito entrevistar ele, já tive em contato com ele por e-mail. E leiam esse livro, tá? Esse livro é mega importante para entender bastidores. Ele fala de todos esses jogos aqui, ó. Deixa eu botar uma imagem com uma configuração maior, né, Pedro? Olha só. Ele fala os bastidores desses jogos aqui, ó. Diablo 3, Destiny, Witcher 3, Halo Wars, Uncharted 4, Shovel Knight, Star Wars 1.3, que não foi lançado, Pillars of Eternity, Dragon Age Inquisition, Stardew Valley. É um livro assim, essencial que mudou um pouco e trouxe muito o debate do crunch e dos abusos que existem nessa indústria. Vamos voltar aqui para o Jason.
Years to make, and so I wanted to address that today. I've written about this a little bit, and I'll throw in, as usual, some Bloomberg articles that you can check out in the YouTube description, because I am still a full-time reporter at Bloomberg News, so please support my work by reading it. But I do want to break this down a little bit, and I sent a few texts out. I asked a few people that I know in the games industry to kind of make sure that I had all my facts straight and the context here. The short answer to the question, why do games take so long to make now, is a lot of reasons. There are a lot of factors, and every game is the kind of confluence of all sorts of disrupting factors that you could see if you check out. If you're really interested in this world and you're in it for the long haul, you should check out the Psych Odyssey documentary series, which is free on YouTube. You have to be willing to commit because it's very long. It's something like 20-25 hours, but it's essentially a 33 episode behind the scenes look at the making of Psychonauts 2, and it will show you how a game can go up to 6 years through all sorts of twists and turns along the way. But again, I wanted to provide a little bit of info here. So it's a lot of factors, and I want to break down at least a few of them. This is not a comprehensive list by any means, but it is a list of some of the major factors that could contribute to a video game taking 6+ years to make. So let's go through them. I have a list of, about 6 of them. Let's go through 6 of them. Number 1 reason why games take so long these days: increased graphical fidelity. This might be the obvious one.
Fidelidade gráfica
that most people point to when it comes to games taking a very long time. So what does that mean? Games look prettier than they ever have. More fidelity essentially means more complexity. It means more specialization is required, and it means you need more people to make a game, and it means that those people need more time. What used to take 1 or 2 artists can now require a whole suite of people, an entire room full of people, lighters and technical artists and VFX artists. You might need 10 people to do what took 1 person in the past, and it might take them a week to do what might have taken a day in the past. Look, this seems obvious, but it's worth pointing out. When you shoot a movie, you don't need to build every single tree or plate or cabinet in the background. In a video game, you do. And what once you could get away with kind of abstracting, now, because of increased graphical fidelity requirements for these biggest games, you have to model and build and spend a lot of time making, even if a player is only going to see it for like a split second. And if you don't, I mean, you're probably going to get yelled at on the internet. You won't get as high a rating. Player expectations have kind of gone up with this graphical fidelity expectation. I want to read, I got a really fun kind of example from someone I know who works in the games industry who didn't want to be named, but this person is pretty high up at a AAA games company. And I asked him, hey, why do you think games take longer? And he was talking a little bit about the graphical fidelity thing. he brought up Final Fantasy IV, the Super Nintendo game that was called Final Fantasy II here in North America. And there's a
Fantasy
scene in
IV,
Final
Final
Fantasy
Fantasy
IV, if you
II
haven't
aqui.
played it, where these two characters, Palom and Porom, turn into stone, saving the party. And it's this emotional moment. The music swells. It's really cool. They're in this little room, and it affects you, despite the fact that it's like tiny SNES pixelated graphics. And this person was telling me, at most, he thinks 5 people made that scene happen. At most. It was probably less than 5 people. Whereas nowadays, if you had to recreate that in a modern game with like the fidelity expectations of a modern gamer, you would need a concept artist. You would need modelers, high-res modelers. The characters would need to be skinned and rigged and animated. You would need shader specialists for the clothes that they're wearing. You would need physics specialists to support their hair. You need a sound designer. You need cinematics, animators, and designers. You would need a narrative designer. You would need a lighter for the scene, a tech artist, a VFX artist. You need some programming support for the scene and for the transitions in and out of cutscenes. You would need writers for the scenes, of course. You would need a voice actors for the characters. You need a director for the performance, a casting director for finding the actors, audio mastering, audio direction, composer, orchestra. And also that room that is portrayed in Final Fantasy IV as like essentially a little square box that has nothing in it. That would need to be, if you're looking at that in 3D, that would need to be a full-on room with like its own design and props and its own level artists and designer and lighting. It can't just be empty. You'll need tech designers. You'll need QA, etc., etc. So like this is what we're talking about these days, which has only gotten more and more pronounced over time. So that's reason 1, graphical fidelity. Reason 2 kind of springboards on that, which is the bigger your team gets, and as we just established, it needs to get bigger to keep up with these expectations, the harder it is to manage. The more people you have on the team, the more managers you need, the more producers you need, the more time you need to put into making sure everybody is communicating. Something I've heard pretty consistently from AAA studios is how difficult it is to communicate and to make sure everyone's on the
Deixa eu ver uma coisa. Quantas pessoas? Peraí, volta pra essa parte.
This is what we're talking about these days, which has only gotten more and more pronounced over time. So that's reason 1, graphical fidelity. Reason 2 kind of springboards on that.
Mas ele falou quantas pessoas?
And props and its own level artists and voice actors for the characters. You need a director for the performance, a casting director for finding the actors, audio mastering, audio direction, composer, orchestra. And also that room that is portrayed in Final Fantasy IV as like essentially a little square box that has nothing in it. That would need to be, if you're looking at that in 3D, that would need to be a full-on room with like its own design and props and its own level artists and designer and lighting. It can't just be empty.
São dezenas
You'll
de
need tech
profissionais para fazer uma
designers, you'll
cena.
need QA, etc.
Para a maioria das pessoas, esse trampo passa batido e é onde o trampo está sendo precarizado com a inteligência artificial. Mas legal, muito importante que o Jason esteja falando isso.
The more people you have on the team, the more managers you
Aí
need,
tem o
the
problema
more
da comunicação.
producers you need, the more time you need to put into making sure everybody is communicating. Something I've heard pretty consistently from AAA studios is how difficult it is to communicate and to make sure everyone's on the same page. And one of the reasons for that is that game development has so many little decisions that just need to be made all the time. So many just kind of both big and small decisions that are just constantly being made, and trying to communicate that across an entire team can be really difficult. A lot of people try to have wikis and design documents that often a lot of people don't read. A lot of people use tools like Jira, which keep track of tasks, and a lot of people just don't update it because it's kind of a pain. If you're trying to do a bunch of work, the last thing you want to think about is like going and updating your Jira tasks or whatever. So that's a whole challenge in and of itself. I mean, here's a good example of that. Bethesda Game Studios. They made Skyrim, which was put out in 2011, still considered one of the greatest games ever made, an open world RPG. They made that with around 100 people, whereas Starfield...
E é o que o comentário do Dan Bacon tá falando aqui. Sim, na área de tech, há um surto de demitir o desenvolvedor júnior para botar IA no lugar. Resultado, acabaram os tokens e os seniors precisam programar manualmente. E eu acho que vai ter gente recontratada por salário menor, né?
their most recent game, which came out in 2023, was made by a team of around 400, 500 people. Skyrim, you could fit all those people in a room. They could work together, and they were all in the same studio. They were all in Bethesda's Maryland studio, whereas Starfield was made by studios. I believe they have 4 studios, not to mention all the co-dev and outsourcing that worked on that game. So we're talking about exponential increases in team size, and that leads inherently to just more time. The bigger a team, the harder it is to manage. Also springboarding off of this is explanation number 3, which is that scopes are bigger than ever. Players are expecting these vast worlds with skill trees and crafting and puddles that reflect perfectly, not to mention just kind of like design that is executed in a really cool and interesting way. And there's good reason players should expect that. I mean, players should expect big things and good things, but scopes need to swell and increase to account for that. And you can't get away with just being like, it's very rare to be able to be like, actually, we're just making a small scale thing. This is only going to be a 10 to 15 hour experience. And we'll see. I think some game publishers out there are trying to pursue that and see if they can get away with it. And we'll see how well that works. But like when we're talking about these budgets that have increased to $300-400 million, you have to sell a lot of copies just to make a profit. And if you need to sell 5-10 million copies to break even, you have to reach a very wide audience. You cannot make decisions that would limit the audience of your game. And so your scope is increasing. You are trying to hit that checklist of like AAA features that every AAA game has to have. And that winds up just adding a whole lot of time to your game. I think scope is when combined with graphical fidelity, the scope of these games is really striking. I think graphical fidelity, if you were just to pursue graphical fidelity but limit your scope, you might be able to cut down your time a little bit. But those two kind of in conjunction, I think,
problemas gráficos, comunicação,
another
aumento do
thing,
escopo.
we'll get to reason number 4. Another thing that has come up in recent years is just technical challenges. Whenever you are switching game engines, an engine, for people who aren't familiar, you've probably seen the name engine, and you've probably seen it used in a lot of wrong contexts. But an engine is essentially just a host of technology, a suite of technology that is used as a framework for your game. It is essentially what you are using to build your game. Could be a bunch of tools in there, could be various...
Outro problema, diz o Dan Bacon, dos games é que precisam estar em plataformas tipo Steam. Caso contrário, eles tendem a ser menos visibilidade. É a questão do alcance. E aí quem é beneficiado principalmente são as plataformas. O Steam, a Epic, aqui no Brasil a nuvem. E aí você não tem uma capacidade de fazer a sua venda própria. Você tem que terceirizar isso. E isso ao mesmo tempo aumenta o seu alcance, mas reduz os seus lucros.
Pipelines and graphical renderers and all sorts of stuff that is
quantidade de jogos novos só aumenta.
Used to make your game.
Fazendo a concorrência
a lot of
absurda.
companies either use their own engine or use Epic's Unreal Engine.
E aí que entra a questão da comunicação. Os jogos da indústria, eles têm um marketing que é muito, muito, muito mais vezes superior. Tanto que assim, a gente aqui no Drops de Jogos, nós temos a especialidade em cobrir os jogos indies brasileiros. Mas eu tenho que cobrir a grande indústria, senão eu não tenho audiência, gente. Eu preciso falar também dos lançamentos do momento, do GTA. Os textos mais lidos do site são sobre GTA. Rockstar é sucesso, Metal Gear é sucesso, porque eu gosto. Mas a gente tem que falar dos jogos da grande indústria, não dá pra falar só dos independentes.
Unreal recently switched from Unreal 4 to Unreal 5. That happened around, I don't know, early 2020s / late 2010s. Actually, it happened early 2020s because it was like the PS5 era. So Unreal switched from Unreal 4 to Unreal 5. And a lot of people had to switch along with it, which is a very time-consuming process. If you are used to working with one iteration of the engine and then suddenly you have to do it on another, that is very time-consuming. If you have already built things in Unreal 4, they're not necessarily going to smoothly transfer over to Unreal 5. We also had a console switch, which also adds time to the equation. I was talking to Brandon Adler, the director of Outer Outer Worlds 2 at Obsidian for a story that I will link in the YouTube description. Check it out. By the way, I throw gift links to all my Bloomberg articles in these YouTube descriptions, so they're all going to be free for you to click on. You can bypass the paywall just by clicking on them. So Brendan Adler, he told me that when they, on Outer Worlds 2, when they switched from Unreal 4 and Unreal 5, that combined with COVID, which I'll get to in a second,
Já falou do Forza Horizon 2?
took a year
Não,
off
não
their
falei
production. He told me, quote, I wish we could have that year back. They had a year where people just were not as efficient as they could be because of the tools, because of figuring out how to...
Falar uma coisa pra vocês do chat, tá? Essas lives eu transformo em cortes, tá? Se vocês estiverem participando e vocês quiserem sugerir alguma pauta, é só vocês me falarem aqui no chat. Eu não vou conseguir fazer mais nenhum corte agora, tá? Porque eu vou ter que sair. Mas vamos terminar de ver aqui o Jason Schreier, que tá com um canal excelente e que a gente traz aqui em língua portuguesa para vocês.
Work from home and all sorts of other technical challenges. And remember, as graphical fidelity just increases, it gets harder and harder to figure out how you can optimize and how you can get your games running at the best possible frame rate, best possible resolution. There are a lot of cool technical innovations that we've seen in recent years, but a lot of those bring with them just extra time that is added to the equation. People have to just spend more time getting familiar with the new technical like abilities and proficiencies, efficiencies they can use, and also figuring out how to optimize for them. So that creates a lot of problems. Number 5, I'm going to just say COVID, because I think COVID was a bigger disruption than people realize. If you think about a game that has taken 6 years and comes out this year, COVID was in the middle of that. And COVID disrupted everybody's lives in all sorts of ways. I won't rehash everything. We all remember it. We've all been through it. But one of the biggest is just reteaching people how to think about games and how to work with people, and just kind of changing the way the games are made on a really big scale. And I have very strong feelings about remote work. I work remotely. I think remote work is a really good thing for a lot of people. But whether a studio is pro remote work, anti remote work, something in between, pursuing a hybrid, whatever they are, the year or so that everyone was just trying to figure out how life would be in this pandemic disrupted everything. It was technical stuff, like trying to figure out how to even work, how to even check in a build.
Não sei se eu concordo muito com essa parte dele, mas
figuring that part of it out. It was childcare and dealing with the actual like tangible effects of COVID and the disruptions that all these health problems had on people's lives. So it was just a massive disruption in all sorts of ways, and that I think added a lot of time to people's schedules. And so we're still seeing the repercussions of that. A lot of people are still trying to figure out how to get back to kind of working together after COVID. The creativity, I mean, collaborating via remote work, like trying to figure out how to make that works better for some studios than others. Some studios have become remote first, and Bungie and Insomniac and a few others are just kind of supporting people wherever they want to work, and they found ways to make that work, but others have really struggled with it. So that is just a whole monkey wrench into this entire generation. And I think if you're wondering why this generation has felt so weird and felt so just kind of like less productive than previous console generations, I think COVID is one of the biggest, if not the biggest reasons. And let's do number 6. Let's do a spicy one for reason number 6. And I've written about this quite a bit over the years. Mismanagement. Mismanagement is a big, broad term that
Má gestão é muito dos problemas.
Is very applicable to the video game industry. So what kind of mismanagement do we see in the games industry? Well, we see a whole lot of examples, and we can bring up some concrete examples. Probably number 1 in recent years is executives deciding that everything has to be a game as a service. And we saw that in everything from Dragon Age Veilguard, which really struggled because it turned from a single player game into a game as a service and then back into a single player game, which caused all sorts of disruptions. And again, I'll link the article I wrote about that in the show notes. We have Suicide Squad is another great example of just kind of, you take this company, this game studio that is incredibly good at making one kind of game, and you say, hey, actually, we're going to make a game as a service now, a multiplayer shooter. And it completely just throws a massive wrench into everything. Part of this, by the way, part of mismanagement, I would say, is not recognizing how long your game is going to take, and therefore making everything less efficient as a result. Because if you are a game developer, if you are a programmer, a designer, or an artist, and you think that your game is going to come out in, 3-4 years, but actually it just keeps slipping, and it keeps slipping 6 months at a time, that is not really 6 years of development. That is 4 years of development, and then plus 6 months, plus 6 months, plus 6 months, which makes you make these decisions thinking you are going to ship at a certain time, only to have the rug pulled away underneath you, which just adds more time to the whole equation. You cannot really do planning. You cannot do thoughtful decision making and make good calls when you think your release date is going to be at a different time than it actually is. So I think it's worth noting here and worth hammering on this point and thinking about this, that sometimes when you see that a game has been in development for quote unquote 6 years, it actually just means, oh, okay, 3 years, and then another set of 6-month delays that just like left us all just on shaky ground the entire time. So consider that as well. Other examples of mismanagement, Warner Brothers have written about them in recent years. That is a studio, Warner Brothers Games, where they had a real problem, a cultural problem of executives refusing to make decisions. So some of their studios just got kind of strung along for months, if not years, where they couldn't get a straight answer from management about like whether they were going to be able to do something or not. That can be a problem. You have cases of directors frequently changing things, revising things, coming in and upending, throwing over the table and just throwing out months worth of work. Sometimes that can lead to a better product, and sometimes it just means lots of struggling. Sometimes it's both. I mean, a lot of people acknowledge like, hey, this kind of iteration and just rethinking things can lead to a better product, but it also just cost us all this time. Maybe the quintessential example of that is Ken Levine, who I've written about quite a bit, whose recent game, newest game, Judas, has essentially been in development since 2014. I mean, 2014 is when 2K shut down Irrational Games, the makers of BioShock, and Ken Levine started this new studio to make Judas. And one of the biggest reasons that has been in development for as long as it has is just constant changes and revising and throwing things out all the time. Another kind of element of mismanagement is just short-sighted decisions, firing people, layoffs, breaking up team chemistry.
Os layoffs também prejudicam o desenvolvimento.
To the production. A lot of times what happens in these game companies is that people on the executive layer will make decisions to juice up the profits of a quarter, or to make it seem like they're more profitable in a quarter, laying people off to please shareholders because nothing makes Wall Street happier than layoffs, and wind up cutting into the bone and costing these productions a lot of time because they're getting rid of people who have a lot of experience, who are kind of integral roles on a project, and it might take months to find ways to replace them. Sometimes I've heard stories over the years about like AAA game companies firing people and then realizing that they shouldn't have fired those people and just calling them up and being like, so what would it take to get you back here? Turns out you're the only person who understands how this particular complicated part of our rendering pipeline works. So can we hire you back? How much would we have to pay you to come back? That's a big part of it. I talked in my last video about Mina the Hollower, I talked about team chemistry. That's a huge thing that a lot of game companies just have absolutely no respect for and no reverence for. And so they'll break up teams that have built good chemistry. A lot of times we're seeing, especially in recent years, because of the current climate and because of these huge budgets and how much it's taking and how there's really no room for failure anymore. We're seeing companies give up on games when they could have been these like strong foundations for future projects. And I'll give you a good example of that. Star Wars Outlaws, which I think was a good, not quite great game, a game with some flaws, but a real foundation that I think could have led to really great things with the sequel. And Ubisoft instead chose to cancel the sequel. Granted, there were a number of reasons for that, but still, I think Star Wars Outlaws 2, a sequel to that game, could have really gone from good to great, sort of like how we saw in the PS3 generation. A lot of games just kind of find their footing and then build off that foundation to make something really great. Mass Effect is a good example of that. Uncharted is a good example of that. Assassin's Creed is a good example of that. Those are all games where like the first title was good, not quite great, and the second game really elevated it, really took it to the next level because you had a team that understood what they were making, that knew how to make games together, that knew the technology and the pipelines, that could see fan criticism and respond to that. So a lot of companies that just give up on the first game and don't give that team a chance to make something else are really just kind of costing themselves in the long run. One more example of mismanagement that I'll bring up real quick is just kind of not using pre-production properly. And this is a little bit more in the weeds, but I ran the story a few months ago from Josh Sawyer, who is the director of games like Pentiment and Fallout New Vegas. He works at Obsidian, and he told me something really interesting, which is that he really believes strongly that pre-production is a time to take big swings and do crazy experiments and stuff like that. And a lot of people are tempted to do the same even when they get into production. So essentially game development is split into these two phases. You have pre-production and then you have production. Production is when you have a lot more people working on the project. And the idea is pre-production, you establish what the game is going to be. Production, you actually make the game. So pre-production often ends with what's called a vertical slice, which is essentially a chunk of the game that is meant to display, hey, this is the graphical fidelity we want. This is what the systems that we want. This is like what a chunk of the game should look like. So everybody can see that and be like, okay, now we're going to make more of this and build out the game in that way. And what Sawyer says is that often in production, people start changing a bunch of things and it's extremely risky and extremely disruptive. And he points out that that you should be doing that in pre-production. If you do it in production, it can cause a lot of problems. And I'll quote him. He said to me, this is for Bloomberg, he said, "I tend to be fairly conservative and say, we already figured this out. We're not going to redo it for a theoretical 15% gain in X, Y, and Z because the potential to screw up the rest of the project is enormous. You're going to waste a bunch of people's work and you're going to eat up a bunch of time." So that's another reason. I could go on and on about mismanagement. I think mismanagement might be the biggest of these reasons, the most significant. There are certainly some, and game devs I've talked to would argue that graphical fidelity is the biggest reason, but I think from a kind of, at least from my outside perspective, I think mismanagement I've seen have the biggest impact on some of these timelines, and some of the most infamous examples of games that have taken 6+ years to make are the result of some serious mismanagement that often, if you're on the inside, you don't really even see or know about until a little bit later, until it's time to postmortem the project. But those are some of the reasons, and hopefully that adds a little bit of context if you're wondering why some of these big games are taking so long. And granted, I mean, I think I'll end on this note, which is maybe the seventh reason, which is a positive reason, which is that creativity takes time and greatness takes time. I was just rewatching this old documentary from 2003 that MTV made about Blink-182 making what most people consider to be their best album, the Untitled album. And they spent like a year straight just living out of this house in the studio and just tooling away at it and recording. And this documentary has all these great shots of them being like, this is hell. Like, this is like, there's one shot of Tom DeLonge, the guitarist and one of the singers, just being like, recording is like this. And he takes this kind of like this little tool thing that is like one of those like, I don't know, like it goes back and forth. It's like a little tool that goes like this. And he just puts it in front of his crotch and it's like right into his crotch. He's like, recording music is like this, which I think a lot of people can relate to if they've ever tried to make art. Of course, it's worth it in the end, but it's worth noting that good art takes a lot of time and can't be rushed. And I think that as games have just kind of grown and matured as a medium and people have started to really understand all the cool things you can do with games, they have realized that it takes a lot of time to make a lot of this great stuff. And I think some of the greatest games we've seen in recent years have taken a lot of time. The Hollow Ridges came out. That's fantastic. Took 6 years to make. Last year's Silk Song, I wrote a story for Bloomberg about why that took 6-7 years to make. Yeah, I said 6-7. Okay, don't make a big thing of it. That story is essentially like those guys being like, we were having a ton of fun and like we wanted to make a ton of good stuff and put a ton of details into it, and it just took a lot of time. Nice. Blueprints, my favorite game of the generation, perhaps, that came out last year after 8 years of development. So even games that aren't like trying to achieve this incredible graphical fidelity, even smaller scale games take a lot of time. And to some extent, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think a lot of people are trying to figure out how to shorten game time, but sometimes, I mean, we're talking about art, so sometimes that might not be possible. Maybe not every game has to take 6 to 8 years. See, I avoided saying 6-7 there. Maybe not every game has to take 6 to 8 years to make, because, I mean, if you're a creative person and you're like spending 6 to 8 years per game, you only have so many over the course of an average lifespan. So, I mean, that's something to consider as well. But at the end of the day, I mean, if we're getting more games like Blueprints and Silksong and Mina the Hollower, then maybe we should welcome long game times as much as the big budget studios might not want to do that. I think I don't know how many of them are going to be able to shorten dev times. I think unless they go for smaller scale, less graphical fidelity, as that one kind of famous meme goes, what is it? I want shorter games made by people who are paid more with less graphics, et cetera, et cetera. I just butchered that quote, but whatever. Don't have it in front of me. All right, that is that for this week's episode of Jason Talks on a Camera. I am heading to Los Angeles this week for Summer Games Fest, so you probably won't see any more videos from me for a little bit, unless I shoot something there for fun and go around talking at Summer Games Fest. Maybe I'll do something like that. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.
Isso aí, gente. Jason Schreier explicando aí por que jogos estão levando mais tempo para serem desenvolvidos.